You gotta be like okay with the fact that your arm can snap. You have to be okay with the fact that if I miss this, hey, my spotters are gonna catch it. It's like a lot of it. It's like a big. If all the conditions are right, and at Westside they're right pretty much 99% of the time, then it makes it easier to do that. I think a lot of it also has to come down with central nervous system. I think when you get to a certain percentage or a certain level of number, I think there's only certain people that can, like, their body. I think it's just you're either special, you either got, like Lou said, you either got it or you don't. You either have the potential and you work through your potential and you build on your potential, or you just don't got it. It's just like you either got it or you don't.
Right.
Initially went for the Phenom because if anybody knows anything about powerlifting, James, just got probably the best bench strength that you can make. There's nothing that really compares to them.
Right.
Now the difference. What was the difference you saw with the Phenom? Like when
from going to Phenom, it wasn't like a shocker to me. It was very comfortable. It was something like it felt like super. It felt tight. It felt like tight, but it wasn't. I didn't feel like I couldn't touch nothing. It was just like it felt like a suit of armor you were in that you could just sit there and let weight come down and know it was going to touch. It was like you didn't, and the spring it had was retarded. Like it was like the first time I put it on, I was like, man, this is bench strength bench weight. I didn't do nothing. Kind of funny.
Right.
How about this? How much shirt work do you do in the gym on any given cycle? How many times will you put the shirt on? Because I noticed you guys did two board the other day. Do you ever go lower than that, or do you just know what you can touch in a two board is what you can touch in a meet? Or
well, I went from I would watch guys that they would do these humongous big board presses, and I was like, well, that really doesn't do anything. Like they would do these big 8,000-9,000 pound board presses, and they'd go to meet and couldn't touch 9 this or 8 that, and dump it this way and throw it that way. And so I was like, well, I basically was like, well, instead of maxing out on boards, why don't I just start taking attempts I'm going to do in a meet off boards and practice that number? That's kind of the approach that I took to it. And,
right. Now, do you do that for your central nervous system, or just for your hands to get used to the weight, or for your head to get used to? You're pretty confident what you can touch, it seems. So do you just? Jamie interviewed Jason Coker, and he basically does overloads to just train his central nervous system up. So when he goes to a meet, he's been handling 1,000 pounds every week. So 900 pounds for him is not much. Is that your philosophy?
Well, I look at it like this. It's similar to that. I don't ever take 100 pounds more than I'm not going to do in a meet. That's, in my opinion, that's how people get hurt. That's how, if I'm a 900-pound bench presser, you ain't going to see me taking $1,000 in the gym just so 900 feels light. I'm going to take that 900 and I'm going to do it off boards and I'm going to perfect it. So when I go to a meet and I get that 900, I'm like, I've had this 900 in my hands 3 or 4 times and I've locked it out super fast every time, so there's no reason why I shouldn't take it an inch slower and lock it out.
That's a pretty cool philosophy, man. That sort of clears a lot of stuff up, Bill. Though, you were talking about, yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. I get a lot of questions. People seem to think that I have some insight into Westside barbell training because I've been around. I know Lou and I've been around the club a little bit. But the one of the biggest questions I get asked about you and the night crew, when you guys post a video and you're doing your assistance work, you guys do tons and tons of volume, but never any kind of like massive weights. Like you'll do hammer strength rows and you'll see like 25 reps, or push downs with 15 to 20 reps. It never seems, it's never like sixes on assistance work. When you're doing your assistance work, are you trying to build mass into the muscle? Are you just trying to put blood into the muscle? What is your thought process on that?
Well, that kind of goes back to like something that I carried with me before I started powerlifting. I'd always watch Arnold and the pumping iron videos. I'm sure everybody's seen that. He would say, you got to get the pump. It feels like coming. You got to get the pump. And I was like, well, I do these. When I started, I'd do these heavy dumbbells and heavy triceps. And man, it just made me feel like crap and beat down. And I was like, dude, I'm just gonna blast it and get the pump. So I just go for the pump, and it's always worked. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, because the big thing was, I guess I've seen a couple of videos with you without your shirt on to the back, and my training partner will go, how in the fuck is Dave Hoff's back that muscular when he's doing like 50 reps? He's not doing any weight. And I go, well, apparently it works for him because that dude's got a back like a bodybuilder, so I don't know what he's doing, but he must be doing something right.
Well, a lot, like I said, like it's just a lot of it's consistency. If you don't have if you don't go to the gym when you're supposed to, and you don't follow what and you deviate from your plan, you make excuses, this, that, then those types of things don't work out, I guess what I'm trying to say.
Well said.
Well said. If you put the work in and you constantly do that type of a thing, for example, I'd open a Flex magazine and you see these big bodybuilders with these ginormous backs doing 15 reps. I was like, well, dude, I want a ginormous back. Ryan Cannell's got a ginormous back. He benches 1,075. I'd like a big back too.
All right, now let's switch a little bit to the squat work. This is actually a question I had asked you, and when you do your dynamic squats, and this is not just with you, this seems to be a lot of the guys at Westside. It almost seems a lot of times where the old philosophy of dynamic squatting, which would be, 10 sets of 2 with 60% or whatever, depending on the stimulus in the bar or whatever, that was like the norm. Now it seems like guys are upping the weights on that day, doing less total volume, but much more weight. So the volume stays, the total poundage stays the same, but it seems like it's sort of switched over from tons of sets to less sets, but with more weight. Is that what your philosophy is now?
Well, it's kind of like this. With the squat, it was, when I first got there, it would be, you would pile on band tension, or you'd pile on some sort of tension, and you'd have a set number of weight. Like 500 in a green band, you do that for sets. That's kind of how I was brought up. It's pretty much what I did every Friday. This band with this many plates, and you do this for this many sets. Eventually, eventually you'll peak, because basically that's kind of just what I did for a while. Because I was going 8, 9, 10, squat 1,000. So it's like, why do I need to change anything? Don't try to fix something that ain't broken.
Right.
So eventually, how it came around the way I do things is I would typically go for I would try to stay in bar weight. I would try to work up, like my last couple sets being over 50%. I would say about 60%, and I would just add a band. And then the next week I would do the same thing, but instead of like a green band, I'd add a chain or something. You know what I'm saying? So right, I'd pretty much keep the same template for 3 weeks. And then, I typically do more chains than I do bands because, dude, when I do bands, it messes my shoulder up and then my bench goes to crap. So it's kind of like something I personally have to correct for myself so I can continue to train, I guess.
Right. Well, let's talk about that then, because I've noticed the same thing. When I use massive bands, and with me it's not so massive, but when I use a lot of band tension, I notice that my shoulders get really beat to hell, and it kills my bench. It actually bombed out last week because I couldn't lock anything out because my shoulder was so shot. So you're on the night. Does the total night crew do that mostly more with chains? The morning crew is a big band. Bands are the way to go there because Lou believes in reversal strength. Does the night crew believe more in chains?
Well, it's kind of like we all have the same common ground, common philosophy. It's all Westside method. It's just kind of like personal preference. Pretty much like I guess what I'm trying to say, if what the night crew does suits this lifter better than what the morning crew does, then they come and train with us, and kind of vice versa.
Right.
We'll have guys that go back and forth, like Jake Anderson. He trained with us for his first meet. When he had a job change and went to the morning crew and got even stronger. You know what I'm saying? So it's just either or. So it's just like pick your poison type thing.
Well, right. I'm not saying that there's a rivalry. I'm just saying, do you find that the night? I mean, your preference is more chain than band.
Oh, simply just because of the fact that when I start doing chain, and some of the guys in my group, like Jed Jester, he's been there for 10 plus years, and over the course of the years, he's had injuries, and his shoulder gets messed up. So it's like, man, when we put them bands on there, we start leaning to the bad shoulder, and then the bars all hang in weird areas, and just kind of it hurts. So thankfully, most of the guys in my crew pretty much have the same type of issue that I do. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
It's kind of, we all kind of just find the common ground and say, well, because like I'll give you an example. Like one day I'll be like, hey Joe, we're gonna do buffalo bar. He's like, man, I can't use that bar today. I was like, okay, so then we'll just switch to a camera bar or something like that. It's kind of like you kind of find out how everybody feels that day to pick what you're gonna do.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the switching of the bars and the switching of the stimulus and stuff. Is that planned out over a course of a meet cycle? Say you're 12 weeks in between meets. Do you have an idea over that 12 weeks which bars? You know, how many chains per week to week, or does it sort of change depending on how everyone is feeling?
Well, it's kind of
like you just said, the buffalo bar might be, Joe says, no, I can't use the buffalo bar. Does that throw your plan off, or is it easy just to switch to the camera bar?
Oh, no. I mean, it's kind of like, it's like I said, it's a bar isn't really going to make or break your squat, you know what I'm saying? But it can hurt you. Like, what I'll do is about, you know, let's say 12 weeks out from me, for example. We're pretty much like, like December, like, you know, this is the last meet in December. You know, December 6th, I believe it was. So pretty much the 3 weeks after that, I was just kind of ho-humming it, you know what I mean? This is kind of like you walk in, you don't really have a plan, you just kind of walk in and work out, train. And then, like, as you start honing in on a meet, you know, you start looking at the calendar and you start saying, okay, about 10 weeks in is when, okay, it's time to turn the crap on again. You start getting back into a rhythm of, you know, I would go in 3-week waves, like, for example, like, for 2 weeks, I'll do like a giant cambered bar with chains for 2 weeks. And the third week, I might go straight bar with a blue band or something. You know what I mean? And then maybe after, and then I'll do another 3-week wave. And then after that 3-week wave, I'll do a free squat or something like that.
Right. Now, this was another thing that we had a little debate on the internet the other day. I was saying that I find with you guys like yourself and Brian Carroll and some of these other top guys in the sport, the thing that always impresses me or amazes me is that you guys can sort of seem like you're gliding along in your training. I mean, it's not like you're not training, but, you know, like Brian Carroll, he'll have 2-3 weeks where he's, you know, or even more, 6 weeks, where he'll be barely over 800 in the squat at all. And then all of a sudden he goes, next week the heavy stuff starts, and the first week it's 1050. And I'm going, how in the fuck? And the same thing with you. Like, you're training hard, but you're not really super into the training, get ready for the meet. Then you got sick, and all of a sudden you go, I'm looking for an opener this week, and you squat 1010. How is it that you guys can mentally, I mean, for me, and Jamie, I think, is the same way. Like, I just was not capable. I had to be, if I wasn't training really heavy and hard, I would have been hard-pressed to walk in the gym and squat 800 pounds, even when I was squatting in the mid-9s. You guys seem to be able to turn it on and turn it off. Like, the strength is always there for you. Do you think that's just a genetic gift, or is that just, how does that happen?
Well, I would say like Brian Carroll, for example. Brian's been around. You know, I watched Brian at the WPO before, like, I was in anything, and I think a lot of that, where you can get that from, is like Brian's got such a crazy base. You know, he's been doing it such a long time that these numbers mentally in his head are just like he's done them before. So it's kind of like he takes a couple weeks and prepares himself, like I do. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, I got sick. I'll give you an example. I got sick. I got the stomach flu. It was horrible, dude. I lost like 10, 15 pounds, and I'm going, dude, I don't know if I can do it, you know what I'm saying? Like, all this crap's going through your head. Can I do this meet? I don't know, blah, blah, blah. So, but, like, the week I got sick was the week I was supposed to take a squat. And I'm like, there ain't no way I'm going to go and try and squat 1,000 pounds, 15 pounds underweight, gear not fitting. It's going to be a train wreck. So basically, I just moved some stuff around, and I was like, I'm going to give myself a week to get my weight back on, to get everything back to normal, and make a run at it. So it's kind of like, the only way it's just like a flip. It's like a switch that you flip. It's kind of, not everybody has it. Like just like, you know, Jamie will probably tell you, powerlifting's not for everybody. Like, it goes back to you either got it or you don't. If you know, if you're at that level and you've been at that level, it's you kind of know what it takes to be there.
But I would like to say in wrapping this up, man, getting to, first off, learning about your lifts and stuff. In the past few months, I've been involved back in the show, and awesome. I mean, really, words can't describe. I mean, it's hard to believe. You would, and I tell Billy this all the time. 15 years ago, if you would have told me someone at your age doing the numbers you're doing, if somebody would even exist, I wouldn't have believed it. I wouldn't have. I mean, it's unbelievable, man, and that's awesome. I mean, it's just awesome lifting. That really, I mean, it's
and the way he does them is super impressive as well. For me, like I said, there's not many multiply lifters I've seen who, there's just total domination of the weight. It's pretty impressive to watch.
Well, again, man, thanks for coming on the show. And anytime you want to come back, you're always welcome. We tell AJ the same thing. To be. I know Billy's a part of Westside. I mean, however, whatever that association is, but to have you Westside guys on the show, I really appreciate it. I know Billy appreciates it. Yeah, and thanks for coming aboard, man. I appreciate it.
I enjoyed it. It gives me time to reminisce on my roots.
Right.
It reminds me of where I come from. Keeps you humble.
So again, man, thanks for coming aboard, dude. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks,
yeah, definitely.
Interview. I enjoyed it, man.
Okay, well, listen, you guys are listening to Big Evil's Lair, and you're listening to Billy's Pick, and we'll be back after these messages.